Oops, get the tail out.
Cindy, are you here? You know, wasn't it nice not to have to go anywhere in the snow?
That's true. Except down to the mailbox.
Right.
Shovel your way down there.
Well, Janet, you have a real challenge getting your mailbox. It's a
I
big
know.
drop, long hill.
Yes, it is. Right. It's better to shovel downhill than uphill. I'll tell you that.
So I have that it's 5:03. Do you want me to at least read the way we take public comment?
Yes,
And get that started?
that sounds good.
Okay. Again, this is a virtual meeting of the township. It's for the Environmental Advisory Commission. We take public comment one of four ways. You can have public comment dropped off in the blue box out front and at the main entrance of the building. And we check that before each meeting. You can raise your hand during the Zoom call, and we recognize through the Zoom, through the raising of your hand. You can also do that if you phoned in. There's an option to raise your hand. If by chance you're having trouble with that, either one of those two, or you just want to make a written comment, you can send public comment to publiccomment@newtowntownship.org. Again, that's public comment, all one word, at newtowntownship, also one word, .org. And we'll take that. Just remember, if you're sending public comment into the public comment email box, you need to make sure that you put your name and your address that you're speaking from, or that we would read into the record. The other piece, if you're phoning in, if you're wanting to have us recognize you and you're on a phone number, we need you to go ahead and give us the phone number that you're using to call into the Zoom meeting, so we know which person to speak. So that's how we take public comment. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bruce, and I'm going to need to run down and check the box
Okay.
real quick, but I'll go ahead and get you started.
All right. So it's March 1st, 7 o'clock Monday, and this is the EAC meeting for Newtown Township. Start off by having a brief moment of silence. Okay. It's time for roll call. I'm going to read through the names, and if I could have people acknowledge their name, that would be great. First, I have Member Mahalo. Cindy, are you here? She's going to be here. I'll get back to her. Member Kravanos, Janet.
Here.
Member O'Sullivan Feeney.
Present.
Member Harry Bryans.
Was here.
Yeah, he's here or going to be here. I just spoke to him. Member Joe Pinto.
Harry is here. He's muted.
Who, Joe? Or Harry?
Harry.
Okay. And I have Supervisor Russo. Not here. Supervisor Altieri.
I'm here.
Okay. And Township Manager Stephen Neese.
I'm here.
And do we have a new member?
Pardon me?
Do we
Oh,
have a
yeah,
new
I'm sorry. Dane Shoemaker. You're here.
I am here.
Okay. So, sorry about that, Dane.
No problem.
Later in the meeting, we're asked you to do a brief introduction, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Let's see. Consider the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Consider approving the minutes for the February 1st meeting. Do I have a motion to accept?
Oh, I'll do it again.
Okay, Janet. Anybody else, please?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Is Harry still muted?
I'm not sure. You
Harry-
know, looking at this agenda, there's a couple errors, because our next item on the agenda is our guest speaker, Steve French. And Steve, are you here?
He is.
Okay, great. Well, what I'm going to do is, as I have, introduce Steve. He's from Natural Marketing Institute, and he's the Senior Vice President. He's going to give us a talk today on consumer opinions, I'll say, of sustainability. So I'll let you take over, Steve.
I
Before Mr.
need,
There you are.
yeah, I need approval to screen share.
Yep.
Here it comes.
Thanks.
There we go. Before Mr. French starts, you have 3 people in the audience. I know sometimes you just move them over. Would you like me to move them over this evening?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
Get this to cooperate here. All right, display settings.
And Bruce, I don't know if you acknowledged, but Joe is on the call. I think when you called him, he was trying to get in.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
All right, should I get started, Bruce?
You're welcome to go.
All right. For those of you that are not familiar, we are part of Research America, which Bruce has said is driven by like 5,000 times. We're at 33 Bishop Hollow. Natural Marketing Institute was acquired by Research America in July of last year. So we are now, I am based in the Newtown Square office. There's another office in Willow Grove. And if I can get my mouse to cooperate, there we go. I will share a little bit about Research America just real quickly, and then jump into the learnings. And Bruce, just let me know. I'm going to go quickly, as there's a lot of interesting things going on.
Okay.
But Research America is basically the roll-up of 16 market research firms in the past 5 years. Natural Marketing Institute was the middle of last year, and then we just acquired another company in Buffalo last month. So what we do is a whole variety of things, both think of the world of consumer and market research. So data collection. So if somebody's doing an online poll or some sort of survey instrument, whether that be with consumers or with businesses, those are the sort of projects that we do. We also, that's what it means by panel management. It talks about sample. We have multiple phone centers across the U.S. We do a lot of work in the political arena and polling. So we just got off of a big year on that. We also have what are called sensory facilities in Orlando and New Jersey. These are big kitchens and facilities that you do testing of various products and things like that. We have focus group facilities around the nation. We do a variety of qualitative and custom quantitative work, meaning any sort of market research, and that can be we do work with big guys from Amazon to small, even small state and municipalities that are looking at all kinds of things, whether it be messaging or positioning or whatever it is. A big group doing statistical data analysis, and then the yellow on the end there is where Natural Marketing Institute comes into play. We've been around for 30 years, and we focus in on health and wellness and sustainability. So if consumers are looking for, or customers, I'm sorry, are looking for consumer insights and market trends and what's next, and they're testing new products or whatever it may be, a lot of the stuff that either ends up on the supermarket shelf or ends up on lottery tickets or utilities when they're doing all kinds of various work comes from us. So that's just a quick 2-pager on who. So when you drive by that sign, and we're actually in 33, and then we have a second floor in the building next to it. So what Bruce had asked me to do as subject matters in sustainability, and knowing that you have a lot of various things that the township is doing to either reduce waste, whatever it may be. I thought I'd share some information from our 19th annual research study. So what this basically does is we go out to, if you look at the first the lighter green box here, we go out to 2,000 or 3,000 general population consumers in the US each year. We've done so since 2002, and we ask them a whole range of questions. And those questions are around consumer packaged goods, around building, transportation, electronics, appliances, energy, travel, all kinds of various things which sustainability covers. I think most of us would agree that sustainability not only is on the environmental end, but it's also on the social end. So tying back to local community and things like that is one of the biggest things we've seen since COVID. And be more than glad to talk about that further as we get into some of it. So this is just a high level overview, but some of it is going to get more specific as we go through. So this is just like a CNN poll. You know, we go out to 2,000 people and we ask them a variety of questions. So from looking at environmental and social issues, and we put these together. This is a list of what consumers around America, so the American adult states is important. And there's many things below the list, but this is just the top, I don't know, the top 10 or whatever it is. The whole note, and you can see a mixture. There's an eclectic mix of everything from cruelty to animals has always been on the top, and it probably always will be, but rights of workers, protecting the environment just in general, the use of renewables, the whole notion of not only organic, but we're getting into regenerative agriculture, and then some other things which you can read faster than I can talk. Some of these things are new that we just added in, like stricter gun control laws. You can see it basically a nation divided on that. You have 43% that care, so 57% don't. Um, so, and then we look at all kinds of other things. Black Lives Matter. We have clients, for example, that will say, "Is my absence conspicuous, or is my participation dangerous?" So is the risk versus reward about getting involved in something so important? They would come to us. We would do some research and figure out and give them our professional opinion. So basically, you can see this is the same sort of question. A percent of America who completely agree, but the point here is you can see from 2009 to 2020, it's gone up significantly. So let's just talk about sustainable ag practices, up from 32% of America to almost half, which is a huge increase. As I get more specific, one of the things we do is try to cull down. I mean, you got to imagine a 40-minute survey to 3,000 consumers over 19 years. That's hundreds of thousands of pages of data tables, something that you probably don't want to look at. But if you cull this down, one of the things that we ask consumers is their behaviors. So what are they doing to live a more sustainable and environmentally friendly lifestyle? And again, there's many things underneath this list. One of the biggest things in terms of trending is something as simple as bringing my own grocery bag to the store. That's been the biggest change in consumer behavior over the past decade. And whether that be something small or large, it has had an impact. But these are the top as it stands today. Using reusable containers. Recycling is on top of the list, as that affects the township, obviously. Being more energy conscious, water, and high energy, the use of high energy or energy efficient appliances. So those are the top 5. It's not to say when you get down, let's just go third from the bottom, drive a more fuel efficient car. It doesn't mean it's not important. It's just further down on the list. Donate money to an environmental group, and so on. So these are the things that consumers state that they're actually doing. Okay. Now, if you step back a little bit, one of the things that we're obviously looking at is the whole notion of global warming. So we've asked consumers, again, for more than a decade. There just happens to be 7 years on here or 8 years on here. We ask consumers, is this something that needs to be addressed quickly? And you can see it's gone up from just over half of America to almost 7 out of 10 saying, hey, we need to do something about global warming. Now, as most of us know, this is not a new thing. Really, to make the impact that we needed to make, it was 20 or 30 years ago. I'll talk about, I think we all know what happened in the 70s for those of us that were around then with all the government activities. I think it's on the following page. One of the other things you see in terms of global warming is it's more important to a younger consumer, which is very interesting. If you look at the numbers on the right on that by the trend chart, you can see it broken down by generation. Then there's a couple things that is always is always contentious, or at least it used to be. I think it's finally proven that global warming is caused by human activity, although some people will still say, no, that's not true. But most of America agrees with that. And about a half of America say it's natural fluctuations in the environment. So a variety of things happening there. Now we look at personal behavior. So consumers can have attitudes, they can have behaviors, but our job is to explain these behaviors, measure these behaviors, and figure out, again, whether it be a local municipality or a Fortune 10 company, there's still all kinds of things that need to be done. So this is consumers stating that they've minimized their effect on global warming by personally changing their behavior. So it can mean a whole variety of things, but look at the big change among, for example, the millennials. A decade ago, granted they were younger, but millennials are now in their 40s. So you can see the huge increase there. It's not as high for Gen X or boomers. So it's really nice to see. And especially this iGen group. And then we'll get into Gen Alpha, which is coming next. There's a tidbit for the day, but that iGen, they're basically built in an activist mindset. So everything that they do has a different meaning, and it's really tied to personal values. So it's the alignment of personal values and morals and ethics and beliefs and so on that links back to either a brand I'm going to buy, a company I'm going to do business with, and you can make the point, even a municipality, that I'm going to choose to live in. I want to live somewhere that's green. And we all know there's more areas in the U.S. that are greener than others, and so on. This is the percentage of America that feels that they're personally more responsible, and you can see how that's increased to 62% this year, and again driven by the younger crowd. Now this is very interesting. You talk about consumers being aware of environmental issues and social issues and so on, but this is indicating how first I feel very green with how I live my life on a daily basis, and that's gone up significantly in 2020. Along with the fact that they feel much more informed. Now, we could have a whole session here for those of you familiar with the term greenwashing. And you may have talked about this and so on, but you need to be careful. The consumers are becoming a little bit more skeptical, like everything's green. So my Pringles potato chips are now, if you can call them potato chips, my Pringles are now more environmentally friendly. Well, they're like, really? I would grow my own potatoes and live off the grid if I really wanted to. Now, this is just how it breaks out again. It's just 30 to 39-year-old, which is really at the peak of feeling enlightened and informed about a green lifestyle. So as you look at the community and so on, and whether it be whether it be homeowners or renters or businesses or whatever it is, employees that are working somewhere, whatever, it's peaking at that age. So if you were to say, okay, this is something that I think the township should adopt, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're spending your resources, whether that be on social media or whatever it is, on this younger group. This next section is on perceptions of the state of the planet. So again, we ask consumers about all kinds of things. These are environmental issues which concern them. Two things rise to the top. One is water quality, and secondly, which has been an increase, is plastic in the oceans. And I'm gonna, there's been some good, bad, and ugly outcomes of COVID on sustainability. Plastic has been the ugly one. I think a lot of you are likely aware that the world of takeout dining finally realized that single-use, including single-use plastic dinnerware with every meal was perhaps not worthwhile. So at least they started asking now, at least some places. But this whole notion of single use has gone up specifically since COVID. I think it's also interesting to notice number 3, litter and trash in the streets, or e.g. trash in the streets. Now this is obviously relevant township and so on. The reason we have it in here is sometimes consumers are more concerned about the things they can see than the things that they can't. So they're saying that litter is more important than global warming. Not by much, but a little bit higher. But it's much more important than look at some of the stuff at the bottom, such as overpopulation, right? We're talking about global population. So the things that consumers can see is definitely important, and you can see all kinds of other things from an environmental perspective. I think that that impact the township, whether it's water quality, but water conservation, which is part of it, endangered species, healthy food choices, all kinds of various things there. And we must protect those coral reefs in the township too. That was my only joke. And right. No, I'll make sure I tell another dry joke. Now this is the I mentioned before. Again, for those of us that were around in the 70s, we won't do a round table. But when the government put together all the water and air quality acts, we asked consumers, for those that were around, so this is based off of a certain age, but do you think that ocean waste and waste on land and toxins and so on are worse or better than they were in the 70s? And so you can actually start on the bottom. I mean, the only thing that is, and this is incorrect English, but it's more better than more worse, is the water you drink, right? So 37% say it's better, 32% say it's worse. And then you can move up on that, water quality in river lakes. Half of America thinks that the water quality in rivers and lakes is worse than it was in the 70s. even with everything going on. So you can see, again, this whole notion of what's happening in the ocean really wasn't an issue back in the 70s. There wasn't this gigantic land mass the size of Texas in the ocean with plastic back in the 70s, or at least it was much smaller. So lots of things going on here, toxins in the soil. That could tie back to the use of environmentally friendly items by the township. All right, getting a little bit more specific here. Here we're into pollution, not consumers caring about pollution from cars and trucks, and then pollution from power plants that are burning fossil fuels. So I don't think there's any fossil fuel plants in Newtown. Is there?
No.
No.
All right, good. Good. Then you don't need to care about that. This whole notion about pollution from cars and trucks continues to move upwards a little bit over time.
But if I could just say something about the fossil
Sure.
fuels in the township, this is Cindy Mahalo, is that recent research of our residents shows that they're very concerned about the escalating traffic, which is generating, it's all fossil fuel driven and is generating a lot of air pollution. And the linkage here could be that we're trying to advocate for a Ready for 100 pledge, which would call for the exclusive use of clean renewable energy, both in buildings and eventually in vehicles by both the township and the residents.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. I mean, I've only started coming to Bishop Hollow in July, and I don't know how long one road can possibly be under construction. I'm talking about Route 3, but I've never seen one road be under construction for 9 months, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm sure you don't want to go there. But you are exactly correct. So if I need to do something about pollution from cars and trucks, gridlock certainly doesn't help. So that ties back to infrastructure and traffic flow and all kinds of other great things, which I'm sure is something that you take up on a regular basis. I think one thing that I noticed, there is an eclectic mix of offerings around the area, much more so than other areas in Philly. That's just my personal observation, having not being a newbie to the township. Now, this is something that may or may not be relevant, but the use of toxins in the soil. Consumers are saying, hey, this is definitely a problem. I presume you have a land management group or are doing something to public places and so on. This is something to look at through, again, I'm presuming this may be outsourced, but finding a more environmentally friendly and cost-effective land management company may be something that may be worth exploring. And again, you may be already doing this. I'm just giving some insights as I go through this. Water quality. I think we talked about this before. So when I'm going to skip this page and get on to the next area, which is really the most important area, not necessarily COVID, but the impact on sustainable engagement. So there is a section here on the impact of COVID. I mentioned the good, bad, and ugly. But here's what's basically happening. And this, it's important to note, you can see that this survey was fielded in October 2020 when we were spiking. So you can see the percentage that are storing and stocking up with more household goods, basically half of America. Consumers are buying more packaged shelf-stable foods, almost half of America. And they're less choosy about brands when they go to the store. And that can be driven from a whole variety of things. Is they're reading labels less, and grocery shopping is so stressful now that it used to be a chore anyway. Nobody liked to go grocery shopping. Now it's like one of the most stressful things I do all week. I just want to get in and out. That's all I care about. And that's a third of America. I mean, that's a lot of people. And basically, if the township is representative of America, then 1 out of every 3 people in the township is going through the same thing. Now,
Steve, I did see on there in that last slide, you said 52% of and this is the average Americans, are saying that they were unemployed or furloughed due to COVID during this time period?
no, you got to read it the other way.
Okay.
Among those that were unemployed or furloughed due to COVID-19, 53% said they're stocking up on more.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's just breaking out that group. It's not at 53%. No. I mean, we have what that number is at that point in time, but yeah, it's just the difference between reading columns versus rows. Now, one of the biggest things we're seeing, I mean, this whole notion of food and beverage during COVID is really tough. Consumers are obviously making more meals at home, and this is broken out by generation. The older you are, the more likely you are to be making more meals at home. We're starting to see some of that decline. Consumers are saying, okay, this is a pain in the butt. Even companies like meal kit companies and so on are finally seeing consumers saying, okay, I'm so tired of cooking. I have gone through the sourdough bread phase. I've gone through the making this from scratch phase. It's basically, something that I don't want to continue anymore. But that's what we see happening here. I'm choosing more healthier foods. Basically half of America. However, for those of you that have kept up on the times, even though half of America states that they're choosing healthier foods, there's unprecedented demand for products that they can't make enough of, like Oreos, Slim Jim, and potato chips. So the average American has gained over 10 pounds so far since the beginning of the pandemic. They're exercising less. Let's see, alcohol use is up 30%. Tobacco use is up 20%. So in other words, we're going to hell in a handbasket. We're going in the wrong direction. I mean, this whole COVID thing has basically driven everybody to say, I just don't care anymore. I just, get me out of the house is going crazy, or the kids are driving me crazy, or whatever, or I can't spend this much time with my spouse, or whatever it is. The amount of we're looking at long-term mental health issues, especially among younger generations, even kids. and a whole variety of things. I mean, we do have some people saying, I'm not eating very healthy at that 38%, and I'm eating more fast food at 41%. I mean, that's certainly not helping waistlines and things like that. But this is what we call the Say Do gap. Consumers say, I care more about health and wellness than I ever did. But you look at every behavior, and we see that it is the opposite. Consumers are not doing something. So, what do you do to encourage people? Let's say it's the use of public space and so on. How do you get people back in the springtime to say, hey, these parks are safe, and bring your kids, get out of the house, be active, whatever it may be, I think is something that could and should be communicated, because people got to get out of the house.
We're starting 20 weeks of yoga classes starting April 22nd for the community. For April 22nd to October 31st, we'll have free community yoga classes. So in our parks.
Cool.
Woohoo!
Great.
That's great.
Cool. Yeah. COVID's also aware of it drove consumers to talk about the fragility of the human condition. So consumers are saying, I've become more concerned and become more committed. One of the good things, and we'll actually see that on some following pages. So I'll say that. Now, we could do I could take the whole session and talk about recycling. I know the township is involved in recycling. You can see how it breaks down between generations. I'm recycling more. But you can also see a variety of things. Consumers feel like they're using more throwaway single-serve items, which I talked about before. And let me check the next slide. No, let me just mention something here. This slide wasn't in here, but the level of skepticism from consumers, but I believe it's around 33%. So again, if Newtown Square is representative of the American population, 1 in 3 residents do not believe that when that recycling truck pulls up to take the recyclables, that they actually get recycled. They think they're just going in a landfill. They're peering out their window and they're saying, hey, they're just dumping their recycling in with my regular trash anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Why is a local community making me separate my stuff out and things like that? So that's something to keep in mind. Consumers we all know there's too much of certain substrates in the recycling stream. We could never recycle as much plastic as we use. But there's other things to do to it other than letting it go to a landfill.
Steve, I have a question on that. So we right now do recycling twice a month. And obviously with COVID and the way that everyone uses Amazon and everything, we're looking at making our public more aware of possibilities for reduction. So still recycling, but being responsible in how we use our resources. So have you gotten any data in terms of when you're able to switch someone over because you're making them aware of, using yet less materials or less packaging or whatever option other than just the plastic bags? Do you have anything along those lines in terms of data?
Yeah, well, we actually ask consumers specific questions like, I'm concerned about the amount of packaging that I get from my Amazon products.
Right.
And the number is remarkably high.
Well, you see those new boxes that are they're using now those boxes. Anything out on the new horizon about being more sustainable for those I guess what I just, if the township goes to a 4-a-month recycling thing, it sounds lovely for those individuals, but I would love to make less trash and waste and recycling. I'd like us to be more aware of what we use and how we use it, and using glass and things like that instead of plastics. So
Well,
anything that you can give us on that.
Yeah, okay, I could circle back on that. I mean, an objective, which I'm not sure if it's realistic or not, it's become zero waste. Now,
Not realistic, but yeah, goals.
I don't think the
Glass is
infrastructure.
very hard to recycle. And they're just kind of
Yep.
storing it.
Yep. And it's getting more expensive to get rid of.
Right.
So, I mean, I can tell you sample size of one, and I'm up in Royersford. So I have as much trash as recycling every week. I fill up 2 bins every week. So I don't know what I'd do if it was every other week. I wonder if that's inhibiting some folks. If I'm an average shopper. So
I think
Yeah, I don't know
single
how-
stream is also an issue. Single stream, when you put your paper in with all that canned stuff that may not be clean.
Yep. Well, the merches are having major problems with some new packaging, such as pouches and things like that, because they're not being caught through their machinery. And I'm talking about the new really lightweight food pouches. So they can't tell the difference when they're running through their gigantic machines, which I presume some of you have seen, to separate things out. But it's definitely a problem. And anything that is unidentifiable within a merch is basically landfill material.
Right.
So it's becoming worse and worse.
May I
as a
just say,
result.
I was encouraged by Pepsi and Coke's new ad about their plastic bottles being made it back into new plastic bottles. And I think that's hopefully the way things will go.
Yep. And then you can have conversations about why don't you just sell us the syrup? We'll make the stuff at home. And we've all seen what SodaStream's doing and so on. But most consumers are saying, hey, that's not as convenient. So I mean, it's a vicious circle, and so on. That does get into a conversation on why do I have to, and I think it may even be on some subsequent pages. And I know we're running close on time. Do you guys want to continue me talking, or should I accelerate and close?
Just continue at this pace. That's fine with me.
All right.
We've got time.
How many slides do you have left?
No, I only have like 8 slides left, but I had a couple just tangents.
Yeah, we're okay.
Beyond the skepticism, some things going on here. I forgot what I was going to mention there back on this other slide here. Single use. Yeah, it's just trying to get consumers. Oh, it was back to the single stream comment. So is the township now just, actually, I think it is. It's just one container and it's mixed, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we've done some work with some other communities and so on. And when you start having 2 or 3 of those, and you got to separate your paper from your plastic from your whatever, it just drives consumers absolutely batty. and the level of compliance. I mean, let alone the fact that some of the materials in the recycling bin are not recyclable anyway. I know our township actually sent out a little reminder. It's actually a it's like a little plastic piece of paper that this is recyclable, this is not. Please post this by the place that you're collecting. So I thought that was interesting because there's all kinds of stuff that we used to put in there that we don't anymore. More health conscious. All right, let's get into waste recycling and the plastic problem. I talked about the whole notion of plastics in the ocean getting much more worse, and it's actually more concerning to the older consumers which is interesting. But something definitely needs to be done about plastic. The amount is just huge. So if there's a plastic 2-liter bottles being converted back into plastic recycled 2-liter bottles is a step in the right direction. But some of the other ways to do it would be refillable, right?
Right.
Now we need to figure out how to keep the carbonation. But Walmart's been doing refillable water for decade plus. We're starting to see refillable all kinds of other products, refillable hand lotions, refillable whatever it is. Back in the days, we'll go over to the Whole Foods, and COVID has definitely had an impact on bulk sales and things like that. But why do we need all this packaging? And I do a lot of talks on packaging on a global basis and so on. And you can see other nations. You can have a picture of a banana in a styrofoam tray covered in plastic. It's like, why is that even necessary? So this whole notion of refilling and reusing is definitely important. Now here we get a little bit more specific in some of the different materials. So you can see what's happening here. There's two things on this page. One is the percentage of America indicating they recycle the following materials most of the time. So you can see pouches are on the bottom. K-cups are a significant issue because they can't be recycled unless you take the top off. At least most of them. Aseptic cartons, and I'm just working from the bottom. Aseptic cartons, there are more facilities around the world, or around the nation, based on Tetra Pak, basically saying the only way that we're going to be able to talk about the fact that aseptic packaging is more advantageous is to figure out how to make it fit within the recycling stream. But there's lots of other things going on here. So you can see most people are, and this is still in the 70s. So you got 30% that are not recycling these items. So you can look at it that way, but look at the numbers on the right. The numbers on the right is the growth, okay? So the biggest growth of people recycling are K-cups. Again, good or not good? I would say most of it's not good because consumers are not taking the tops off. Pouches are relatively new, but that's up. Among standard type of packaging, you can see, we're doing a lot more with paperboard than we used to. up 17% in the past five years. That's definitely driven from the e-commerce, whether that be corrugated or paperboard boxes. We've always done newspapers, but not everybody's moved to corrugated. So I think that's pretty interesting. The other area I mentioned, I talked about environmental issues before, and that was half an hour ago. Time flies when you're having fun. So here's the top social issues. Okay. Again, if the township is representative of the U.S., and I got to keep saying that, I don't think it is, but I keep saying it that way. I could guess, but I don't want to. But if you look at social issues, access to healthcare, race relations, you can see what's most important to America. And this goes down to everything to politics, to food waste, to childhood obesity, and so on. So if there's a conversation happening in terms of what social issues are resonating most with America, here's how it is. We would have to, however, look at a more representative group of the township, which I presume, to go out on a limb here, is less racially diverse and higher income. I presume my guess is correct.
Mhm. That's right.
Well, if we think about the wider community that we live in, Philadelphia and the surrounds, then
Okay. Yep. Good point. Yeah. All right. Here's just another couple slides, but this is pretty interesting because it gets down to the local government level. So we ask consumers, who do you feel is a leader in protecting the environment? Okay. That's in the green. And then in the blue circle is who should be doing more. Okay. So you can look at a lot. So look at professional sports teams in the media and so on. There's a variety of things happening here. One is you can look at the gaps between what the consumers feel and the leader and who should be doing more. The gaps are huge. The only one that's relatively close is individual people on the far right. But let's just look at local governments. 23% say they're the leader in protecting the environment. That's not as high as nonprofits or volunteers, but it's in the middle. It's higher than corporations. Corporations are down at 18%. However, half of consumers think local governments should be doing more. Yes, it's a matter of funding and things like that, but there's a perception there that this whole notion of local, along with federal, but local should be doing more. Consumers indicating who should be doing more to protect is 50%, like I mentioned on that previous page. So I actually lied. I'm only 1 minute and 30 seconds over.
That's great.
I hope that that was a very short presentation on the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages and all the work we do with local clients and global clients across the supply chain. So it's a really interesting business. We're glad to be in the township, and now that when you drive by, you can like wave, and I might be there, I might not, but.
Steve, I have a couple questions. One, it's Brian. We have a population of, give or take, I don't know, probably what, Steve, 14, 15,000 people in our township. And I don't know how many households that is,
About
but
13.
13. Say 13.
But we think about 13.5 roughly.
That in the order of magnitude. If you were to do a survey of residents of our township, 13.5, how many would you have to survey in order to get a statistically defensible product?
Off the top of my head, I think it
might be an unfair question, but I'm just, you always hear about the margin of error, but I'm just consequences of a margin of error.
Yeah, you typically want to get, and there's a mathematical equation that I can plug the 13,500 back into and say, okay, you would need to get this many surveys, and then the response rate. You have to take into account the response rate. So you got to send out 50 for every one to come back, and so on. And then you can offer an incentive, which would boost that up. You could give away no real estate taxes for a year, and maybe that would increase your participation. But that is certainly something we could do, and it's relatively easy because I think a lot of those numbers, if we were to take a look at an upper income, less diverse group, I think some of those numbers are definitely going to change.
Right.
And Steve, you mentioned that 1/3 of the individuals felt that the recyclables were just winding up being in a landfill. So what measures would you suggest that we help communicate to our residents that that is not in fact the case?
Are you sure that's not the case?
Yeah, very true.
Right, because there's a perception issue, as you said. So what can we do to help?
Yeah, how do you know it's a true comment?
Right.
Because after it goes to a certain point, there's no traceability from your end.
Right.
We do our best, but I don't know if a resident would look at that as, back to my notion on greenwashing. I don't think it's something, a lot of consumers, well, it depends whether you, is there township collection or is it all private?
It's township.
For recycles township.
Okay, so the recycle is township.
It's required by law.
Right. But
it is done by the township versus an individual hauler.
Right.
I mean, it is an individual hauler that the township contracts with for the entire township.
For the entire township, but if you have waste management versus somebody else, and I think waste management is who you use, right?
No, we're now using Mascara. They got the latest.
Okay. So
any more questions from folks?
Yeah, I don't think you can address the skepticism issue because you can't trace it. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay. I did see Cheryl had her hand up.
Cheryl, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I was just going to say, Paul Seligson did a recycling event, was it like maybe a year and a half ago? And they were saying some of the challenges with recycling in our township, if I remember correctly, is if there's any waste in your plastic can, like if you don't clean out your plastic can really well, that gets taken out. If there's any plastic on some of your recycling plastic bottles or tape on some of your cardboard, that gets filtered out. So the gentleman that spoke, I can't remember his name, but talked about how unfortunately it is costing more and more to recycle as opposed to just throw away garbage. And that's kind of where it was left. So I'm curious myself about what happens with the recycling and how we might be able to improve it.
Have you done any communication like the one I mentioned before about what is really recyclable and what's really not? And the fact that you need to clean out your food containers thoroughly or else they're not going to get recycled.
The township has done a decent job of that. And I think generally our citizens are aware what goes in that can and they know that it has to be clean. Yeah.
I mean, we do something, there's something being put out almost for sure on a quarterly basis related to that. And then we do additional communications as well. And Mascara has done several communications trying to increase not only what is being recycled, but also what quality it has to be.
Right.
There was a nice flyer, I think, that was sent out last year that was in full color with pictorials and stuff that told you what you could and could not recycle.
Okay.
That was very helpful to us.
Well, I'm hoping that after we get out of COVID, there can be some more education about what kinds of things we can just stop buying altogether, because that's what we need to do. We need to stop the stream going into the recycle container, like bringing your own bags to the grocery store, which we should all be doing.
Yeah, and back to what I was saying before about refill, reuse.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to reuse your 2 liter, at least cut off the top of it, use it as a flower pot, use it as a scoop for the salt in your driveway, do something with it instead of going out and buying a scoop. And I'm just, using something as an example. But
The slides were good though, Steve, and we appreciate the talk. It was useful.
And is that, are your slides available? Do they become part of this?
My opinion is we shouldn't ask for the slides because it's commercial and
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
they're of value to them more than us. So,
But can we use you as a resource? If we had a question, can we call you? And
sure. Yeah. No, I give back to a variety of to my alma mater and surely to my township. So sure, just give me a ring if you want to throw something by me or whatever it is. Bruce has my contact info and be more than glad to help. And I hope you found that useful. There's so much more going on.
mm-hmm.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, obviously, but
I've never heard the word sustainable being used so much as I have in the last month. It seems like everybody's now talking about it.
Yeah, well, we used to call it the S word. And the biggest issue with it is it means so many different things to so many different people.
Right.
And when you say you're environmentally friendly, what is that? Or you're environmentally sustainable, what does that mean? It's sort of like, as we get into, and I didn't even touch on things like clean tech. That's a big area that folks are looking at, and so on.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. This was an excellent presentation.
yes, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
We're going to move on to our other administrative matters. Steve, it's okay with you?
Yep, I am going to depart. Everybody have a great evening.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank
Steve,
you.
it was
Thank
very
you.
interesting.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Well, we've got 20 minutes to pack not that much stuff in. One of the items is, it's actually listed under old business. Janet, do you want to give us just a brief update on what you've been doing in the community with Ready for 100?
Well, ready for 100. The resolution is in the hands of someone within the township.
No,
Is
it's,
it now?
it's now back in our hands.
Oh, good.
And we're going to take a look at it and suggest edits if we feel any are necessary, but we're now on the critical path.
Okay, well, I thought listening to Steve's presentation, just his presentation was pointed out many good reasons why we as a township should move forward on Ready for 100.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that if Leonard is still present, is Leonard?
He had to
still-
step out.
Oh, he had to step out. Okay, but Steve, you are still here. But
Yeah.
very good reasons to develop sustainability, solarized charging stations, bags and stores, all of these things, switching energy. And all of those are, maybe not the bags, but part of moving forward in Ready for 100. And so we're just waiting, I think, to hear when the supervisors would like to have a conversation on it, maybe prior to having a vote on it.
We're going to see the extent of the changes that we might suggest in the resolution, and from that, kind of chart a path forward. It might be as simple as resubmitting it for a second review and having it passed short term. That's the most optimistic way to look at it. So we might be in the home stretch for this.
Bruce, had you looked at the comments in the document?
I have not. I scanned the document real quick and saw that George spent a lot of time with it.
Yeah, I looked through his comments a little bit more, and I thought there really wasn't anything of substance.
Mhm.
You know, he deleted some things to make it a little shorter. He tweaked the emphasis of some of the language, but the general essence of it, I thought, was unchanged.
That's great.
So, you know, I can read it again. I think we should all read it again, but I don't think I'm going to find anything, you know, significant there. And what was your thought about presenting the topic to the Board of Supervisors before presenting the specific resolution?
My thought is this: if we need to support the acceptance of the resolution, we're due a presentation, but it's been discussed so much, and those folks, the supervisors and Joe and everybody, seems to have a decent understanding about what this resolution is all about. And if we don't need to make a presentation, we won't make it. But if we do, we've been invited, and we can do that hopefully in the next 2 weeks. But more optimistically, I'm hoping we can get this passed with the minimum amount of
Yeah, that would
bringing
be
us
great. Yeah.
input.
Okay, that would be
And
good.
what is Steve still here? What is his opinion of it?
Steve Neese?
Yes.
Please,
Yes,
here.
Steve Neese is still here. Just making sure we were talking about the right Steve.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, I think we're moving forward. I think that I think it's important that you all review the changes that have been made and see where you land. One of the things I sent over to Bruce, something related to PA sustainability that's a little bit broader, and it's looking at all levels of sustainability in government, and I think if we can piggyback the two together, there's actually a chance of really talking and really looking at it a little bit more than just environmentally, but totally how government itself is sustainable. And, you know, I did send it over to Bruce. I have it up. I could pull it up and give you an example of some of the things that it looks at and it evaluates. But there are only three or four municipalities in Delaware County that are participating in this right now, or at least have a graded score. Radnor and
Swarthmore,
Is it Swarthmore?
I believe.
Swarthmore, yes, Haverford, I think is.
Yeah, Haverford has got the
lead the way.
gold, and then
Right.
the other two are silver. So, you know, I do think that there's, I think without much work, we could be at the associate level, even by the middle or to the end of this year. And we could be up probably to the bronze level in, you know, within another year after that, and then keep moving our progress up. It seems to me like it would be, you know, if we join the two together, I mean, obviously from your perspective, you're interested in the environmental side, and I get that. But if we put the two together, it would put a whole emphasis on the township of a sustainability and look at it from a broader stance. And so it is something, like I said, I sent something over to Bruce. I wanted to have the conversation here. My intent is to present it to the township supervisors and get some feedback from them, but I'm open from feedback from you as a group, whether you think that would be beneficial or not. And I think that if we can look at it as holistically as possible, we're going to have a better buy-in over a long-term period.
Mhm.
Well, in fact,
the
they're
program's
probably
called-
better for the environment anyway, right?
Yes.
It doesn't exclude the environment just because.
No, it definitely includes major pieces to the environment. In fact,
Yes.
I mean, there's some very specific scores
Mhm.
and to, you know, for scoring that would, you know, drive us to do a lot of the things that are important if we really think it's important to achieve this.
Mhm. The program is Sustainable Pennsylvania, if you care to look it up on the website.
Okay.
If I can chime in, I think that's a good idea, Steve, and I think it's great that you're proposing this. When I was, you're probably sick of hearing me say this, but when I was chair of the EAC in New Jersey, there has been a Sustainable Jersey program for 10 or 15 years, and our EAC led the effort to get the community certified as a bronze level sustainable community under the program in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, Steve, it was very holistic. It looked at a lot of different aspects of the municipal operations. And it was helpful to have a structured system. And it was very motivating to get things done, because if we needed to change an ordinance or pass a resolution or hold an event, we could go to the municipal government and say, well, if you want to become a sustainable community, you have to do this. This is part of the deal. And it was just one more impetus for getting things done.
Bruce, I have a question about, you mentioned about the presentation to the board of supervisors, and obviously for the Red 100, they understand those issues, but I do think it's important for us to take that opportunity to help the public become aware of it. So although the supervisors might know everything, you might get a chance to kind of speak to the residents and helping them buy into this idea. So if we can put on the presentation, I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
That's a great idea, Sheila.
All right. So I encourage everyone to join the webinar tomorrow night. Maybe they don't call it a webinar, Zoom, with Radnor Township, where they are going to present the practical energy solutions. We've been invited to listen in. Radnor this is the way they are moving forward on their Ready for 100 program. They contracted with Practical Energy Solutions and might give us a real idea about the path forward once our resolution is passed.
I will say that we use Practical Energy Solutions.
Yes.
We did the building remodel.
Yes.
They actually drove a lot of our changes in our remodel because of what they did. So it's a good program.
So then you feel that they are a good company to work with.
Oh, we went with the geothermal because of them. We took the whole building to LED lights because of them. We changed several other things based on their direction. And so Yeah, I do.
So Steve, if you'd like to join into that tomorrow
I-
night, it's at 7 o'clock.
I have a CDCA meeting that I get to enjoy tomorrow evening.
Okay.
I will try to do that, Janet, if I can.
All right, thank
Any other comments? We're approaching 6:30.
Yeah, I just wanted to get, we were supposed to make a ruling about the Arbor Day event on April 24th. Are we still kind of tentative about that? Or are we 100%? We were kind of concerned with COVID. We were going to obviously not make it as a big event. We were just going to have maybe even a few trees, because obviously the trees aren't going to count for her MS4 type plan. So what is the decision on that, Bruce and Cindy?
Well, my comment is, can we pull it off with COVID going on? And my question is, when is our drop dead time? Do we have to make a decision tonight, or?
No, we were just trying to get a feel with everyone to see if that date was still good. And again, it was going to be, at this point, it looks like it's more of a symbol type event for us to do, because we're not going to have the big to do that we usually do. But we also didn't want to lose momentum, because the resolution was passed. We'd like to do something. And I think it was kind of important to do something, whether it's even one tree, but something, because with COVID, life still goes on, and we don't want to just give up on, protecting the environment or doing what we can because of COVID. So even if it's something.
We also have to do it to maintain our Tree City certification. And if we don't do it in the spring, we can do something in the fall, but we have to do something over the course of this calendar year.
Well, I have 2 points or questions. One is, what would the role of the new Shade Tree Advisory Commission be? Is this something that they would take over? I know we've been kind of sorting out our role and their role, but I wonder if who's responsible now for maintaining that Tree City status? Is it us or them?
I think that's a to be determined. I think we've got to sit down with the Tree Commission and understand what their focus is and how broad or how narrow it is, and where we fit in. And we have to do that as well with Parks and Recs and Newtown Square and Bloom, but that's kind of a to be determined, Cindy.
Okay. Well, that was one question. And then the other is, I think when we discussed this before, we said that might be influenced by George, and whether he was ordering any trees.
Yes.
Through the
PHS
program, and I've been letting him take the lead on that. So I don't know if he's planning to purchase any trees through that, or even if he doesn't, we could always, I think he said he's got some trees that are outgrowing their location in the nursery, and he wants to move them out and plant them.
Yeah, I don't have a definite answer. I know last week was the deadline to order the trees. And I don't know if George was able to get the order in time. We had obviously storm after storm, so he was behind in some areas, but he was trying to get it done. They actually gave him an extension, and he was trying to get it done. I don't know if he ever got it finished, but I can follow up on that. But we do have trees in the nursery. I think there's 15 or so in there that we need to get planted.
All right, before you sign off, can I just mention about the pop-up garden?
Sure.
The pop-up garden is still on, and the plan is to put it in the corner of Bishop Hollow and Ellis for about 8 days. And Steve Mastardi says that we should work together on the plants. I have also been working with Audubon Valley Forge. Our funding is still there. They want us. We are also then going to move the garden, and Paul Seligson is going to be responsible for that, moving it to gather around the circle so that the plants will be there, the native plant pop-up garden, and then we'll have to decide where the plants go from that point. It's been suggested that we do some zooming on native plants during this period of time. I'm talking about like May the 8th around that time there. Vince Smith is still agreeable to do a Zoom on converting his front yard to native plants. And Mike McGraw is willing to do a Zoom also on native plants. And Tyler is going to help again with the construction of the garden. So things are moving forward, I feel. We're in good shape.
Great. Cheryl, you always like to have comments here. You're the public. Do you have any? Cheryl Grasso?
I think the pop-up garden is going to be a great idea. Moving it to the farmer's market, I think will also help, or that gather in the square and all of that community outreach that's going on. I think that there's a lot of
Yes.
positives that I hear about it. So, and my
Thank you, Jeff.
feeling is, I think if we can maintain social distance, we're outside, the weather's getting nicer. I think it's a great opportunity to bring the community together, personally.
Bruce, I see Rich Hedberg has his hand raised.
Yes. The last time I attended, I thanked you for your support on the Gradyville,
All right.
the settlement agreement that didn't happen. And I kind of wanted to bring people up to date. I suspect you may know more than I do, but since that meeting, the judge did rule against the township, and the road, the judge ruled the road should go up close to where 252 is. And then the township has chosen to appeal that decision. I don't know quite what that means, but I think for us, or at least for me, as the homeowner right across the street, it means that I've just got to remain vigilant, because there is a possibility that they would work out a new settlement agreement, that they would decide to put the road right back where they were proposing it in the old settlement agreement, probably without any of the zoning relief. They'd probably still do a 2-lot subdivision rather than a multi-lot subdivision. But if we allow that road called Cherry Blossom Lane to parallel Gradyville, whenever they do the final zoning or the final subdivision, they're going to have to just destroy those lots that are between Gradyville and Cherry Blossom, because all of them are on steep or very steep slopes. So just kind of be aware of that. I'm not sure we need to be worried about it, but we might find ourselves in a situation where they move the road without letting us know the amount of zoning relief that they are building into their solution. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't go into a lot of detail, but I can say that I would be extremely surprised if the road went back to what the original settlement agreement was. It would shock me, because that's not what's being discussed.
Thank you for sharing that. That will help me sleep better at night, Steve.
Well, that's why I went ahead and shared what I could, but that's not what's being discussed.
Okay, it's little past 6:30.
Bruce, I thought we were going to let poor Dane have a moment to speak. You got to tell us who he is and all the
Oh, I'm sorry.
particulars.
I keep ignoring Dana. Do you have a few minutes, Steve, to?
Yeah, I can go until about 1:45.
Okay. Dane, are you still here?
Yes.
I am here, yeah. I prepared 37 slides as an introduction to you all, but be a little brief. So thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me join the board here. And I'm a resident of Newtown Square for only 2 years, so just moved in here about 2 years ago with my wife, Morgan. We lived in Philly for about 10 years, and she's actually from Broomall, so we moved out here to get just a great environment, right? A great place to grow up and have. We have 2 boys, so I have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old, and I would say one of the big factors, over the past year with COVID and just really getting an opportunity to enjoy everything that Newtown Square has to offer, beautiful parks and a lot of preserves nearby, and Newtown Meadow Preserve I've become very familiar with over the past year or so. And I just, on a personal level, I really, I'm an advocate for recycling and environmentalism, but I feel like I need to do more. I think just listening to Steve's presentation about, millennials being interested in it, I can concur with that. I just want to give back to the community. I was very involved growing up. I was in Boy Scouts. I was in a fraternity in college. And so I really haven't had an opportunity to get involved much with volunteer organizations and things like that. So, looking forward to being involved in the township and, promoting environmentalism and everything there. So I have a lot of, ideas and things like that, but my goal for the next year, 6 months or so, is just to help you all out with your projects that you have going on and, whatever I need to do. So I work in sales, my day job. So I'm no stranger to fundraising and knocking on doors and things like that. So however I can help. So thanks again.
All right. Thanks for.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome,
Joining us.
welcome, Dane.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So, Steve Neese, may I ask you about the scout who wanted help to build Bluebird boxes? I think I emailed you. but
Yeah, did
I
he never
haven't
get
heard
back to you?
No.
All right, I'll follow up with George and make sure he got all the information.
Okay.
He may have kind of gotten started, just getting the boxes themselves built.
Okay.
But let me reach back out through George. I gave George your information to pass on to him.
All right, good.
So that he could reach out to you about the location issues.
Good. Thank you.
And guys, I know on April 10th, Wade is organizing with the DCBA, the Greer Park stream cleanup along Fox's Run. And so more information will be coming out from Wade, but I'll make sure that everyone on EAC has that as well.
Great.
Good.
Okay, with that, I'm going to bring the meeting to an end.
All right.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you all very much.
You.
Thank you.
Have a good week. Bye.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good night.
Right.